The Houston Texans can take a stranglehold of the AFC South this weekend. Meanwhile, the Miami Dolphins are trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. AQ, who has the edge in this one?
I think the Miami Dolphins are playing really, really well the last couple of weeks. I think when you look at it, I think these are two teams going in opposite directions, right? I think you saw the injury early in the year with Tua, right? He goes down, that team went down. He comes back, that team goes up. It literally starts and ends with him. And the Houston Texans are going the other way. I mean, CJ Stroud looks uncomfortable in the pocket. When you look at the offensive line, I think they've played almost abysmal at this point in the season, and he looks uncomfortable. He's got happy feet. He's missing throws that he normally makes, and it's just, when you look at these two teams, they're going in opposite directions. Joe Mixon is keeping them in the game in spite of how bad their offensive line is playing. And when you look at it, I think the Dolphins have a better defense overall as well. So I think I got to give the edge to the Dolphins in this one.
And I like abysmal. I like the way you say that. That is, I like that one. Jay, not abysmal. Maybe it is abysmal is the Dolphins' chances to make the playoffs. They're not very good. They had the Texans, they had the 49ers, they had the Browns, and the Jets. Those last two are on the road. Can they run the table and make it into the playoffs?
They can. They're good enough to do it, obviously. They have weapons coming out the kazoo. I mean, the speed all across the field. I just hope Mike McDaniel just calms down some of the fluff. You don't need all these motions and underhand pitches and all that stuff. Let's get to our bread and butter. Let's get Tyreek Hill the ball, Waddle the ball. Jonnu Smith is playing very good. Achane is playing pretty good, obviously. These guys can hurt you in a lot of different ways. They make you cover every blade of grass. They're a very good screen team. They can run the ball, and obviously they can hit you up top with Hill and Waddle. Team that I'm worried about now, this might be a shocking statement to you guys. The Texans got to win. I think the Colts might sneak into the playoffs and win that division. They're only 2 games back. If the Texans don't win this game, they got to play the Chiefs and the Ravens, and then they finish with the Titans, who already beat them, while the Colts, they play the Chargers, I think, or the Broncos, and then they play the Titans, Giants, and Jags. It's big for both teams. This time of year, when you're right around the playoff number, you got to win out. It's a lot of pressure on you. But right now, I think, like AQ said, I think Miami's playing better football. But I do believe C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Joe Mixon, they got enough firepower to match what Miami does if they can block better up front.
Blocking better up front is going to be a tough task to do. But C.J. Stroud last year, Colt, he had cemented himself as the next great quarterback. We were getting ready to put him in the conversation with the Tom Bradys, the Peyton Mannings, the Patrick Mahomes. He's taken a little bit of a step back this year. What have you seen on film from CJ Stroud, and what's up with his sophomore regression?
Yeah, I think AQ nailed it. I think it's just the inconsistency from his support on offense. You look at the offensive line, they're just not playing that good. They've battled some injuries, but at the end of the day, he's taken too many sacks. I think he's taken like almost 40 sacks this year. That's ridiculous. And for a young guy, that adds up. I know he played great last year, and I still think he's a really good quarterback with a super bright future. Like, I'm a big CJ Stroud fan, but you look at his numbers last year, he led the league in touchdown interception ratio. This year, he's at 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. They're just not as efficient on offense, and I think it's because he's getting hit too much. And their offensive line, I mean, thank God they have Joe Mixon. He's basically putting the team on his back. But again, they're still sitting atop the AFC South at 8-5, big matchup against the Dolphins. And I just think CJ Stroud has a lot going on. He's constantly pressured. You know, he's battled injury. Diggs is out. Nico Collins missed several games. But now maybe that, you know, they have their core group, he can get back on track a little bit. But, I mean, I've seen him do some things that you didn't see him do last year. I've seen him throw some balls into cover two that's like, why would you do that? I've seen him overthrow some posts. You know, there's just a lot going on there. I think he's still a great quarterback. And I think this matchup is going to be an interesting one, as Jay mentioned. But I do like CJ Stroud. I just think, you know, the support staff around him, the inconsistency that they've had this year has really affected him.
Well, you know who doesn't have trouble with their supporting staff? It's Clean Pocket. It's us. It's the boys. We appreciate you guys supporting us so far. We have over 9,000 subscribers. The goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers. So in this video right now, make sure you're hitting subscribe, turn notifications on, get us to 10,000. That's the number we need to get this thing rolling. Just like Tua Tagovailoa, AQ. He has been rolling. He's got 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in the last 4 games. He's been one of the best quarterbacks since coming back from his injury. But there's one area of concern with the Miami Dolphins, and that's short yardage. Is that more the offensive line? Is that more McDaniels trying to get a little too cute? Devon Achane's not really built to run between the tackles. What's the issue with the Miami Dolphins short yardage situations?
I mean, I think you nailed it right there. You said a couple different things, but I think the one thing that you missed on is the fact that I think short yardage comes down to an attitude. I think it comes down to pure attitude. You're 3rd and 1. It is mano-a-mano. We are going to get this first down. And I think when you look at it, they lost their big bruiser guard in free agency last year, Hunt, to the Carolina Panthers. And he was the guy that you could kind of always get in behind, whether it was a QB sneak. They're obviously not running any QB sneaks because they don't want Tua to take any hits, right? So it's always going to be a handoff. It's always going to be something cute. It's always going to be an end around or some type of crazy ball handling with Tua spinning around trying to do something. And Achane is more of trying to get to the edges type of guy, right? And so you take the combination of all of that and the fact that you lose your big bruiser at guard. You got Liam Eichenberg in there at right guard, who's not nearly as physical as Robert Hunt is. At the center position, I love the guy, but he's more of a reach the nose and get to the edge type of guy, right? I think when you take all those combinations, plus the way McDaniels is calling plays, plus the fact that Tua can't really run QB sneaks and take a shot in the head, I think that's all the reasons.
Jay, tell him, man. 3rd and shorts, man coverage. Freaking throw it to Waddle and Tyreek Hill. What are we talking about?
I mean, Tyreek Hill's routing dudes up every time it's a big situation. Jay, is that the key?
Yeah, anytime you get a known one-on-one situation, I'm throwing the ball to one of those two cats. I mean, these guys are uncomfortable, especially Tyreek. The way he come in and out of cuts, the way he attacks the technique of a defender, I don't know how you cover him. These defensive backs, they got to just play off of him and hope to God Tua overthrows them, I guess. But, yeah, I would try to get the ball to Tua and Waddle. Anytime you see a single-high safety, my bells and whistles are going off. Where is Tyreek? There he is. Boom.
No, for sure. And Tua, we don't want to see him get hit. CJ Stroud has taken a lot more hits this year. You mentioned it, Colt, earlier. He's the 2nd most sacked quarterback on the season. How do those hits add up to the way a quarterback goes out there and does his job? Is it make it way harder? Is there a way to avoid like Tua, or what's the thought there?
CJ's a young guy. He can take a bunch of hits. He's taken 41 sacks. He's been hit a lot. Some of their best plays on offense this year are when he's heated up and he's created a play. You just can't live and die on that. And so I think more than anything, it just causes some overthrows. You miss some throws that you should hit. I think over time, that's what we've seen this year. I think if there's any way that the Texans can get a little bit more creative on offense in their protections, in their scheme, to sort of just, get him out of the pocket, let him set up and have some space around him. It's hard when you're a quarterback, no matter what stage you are in your career, young guy, old guy. When you start getting hit, those things add up, not necessarily from a physical standpoint, but more from a timing, you're missing easy throws that you should hit. And you're like, dadgummit, I want that one back. And I see that in his game right now.
Happy feet.
Well, so here's a question then. When you have a young quarterback, you try to condense the playbook. And Bobby Slowick was getting considerations for head coaching jobs. Now, this year, everyone wants him fired from the Houston Texans. Jay, as you try to expand the playbook for a quarterback and grow with him and give him more and put more on his plate, how does that impact CJ Stroud? Is that part of what's going on? Like teams know what the Texans are doing. They were very vanilla, did it well last year. This year, they've caught on to it, or is there something different going on?
I don't think they were vanilla at all last year. I thought Slowick did a great job of mixing in the run, the play action, and the drop back passing game and the quick game. I thought he did a great job keeping defenses off balance, and that's the key. But the key is this year, I think, on some of the shot plays they take on 1st and 2nd down, where usually last year he had more time to throw. He's not having that time to really set his feet, read the defenses, and get it out to his 1st, 2nd progression. I think now he's starting to get honed in on the first one. He's afraid to get off the 2nd one, so feet get a little bit happy, and then he misses a throw or he has to throw it away. So there's a lot of reasons involved. I don't think it's Slowick. I think it's more offensive line related. I think it's more like Colt mentioned, he's got hit a few times, so maybe he doesn't trust what he's seen. He doesn't trust to hold it long enough. But I think they'll be fine. I think once CJ gets back in the mix and they play Miami this week, who doesn't have a very good pass rush, he should have time this week to let it rip. I think they should have a big bounce back week offensively against the Miami Dolphins.
Want to win money watching football? With Underdog, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash just by picking higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, like whether or not your team's running back will score a touchdown this weekend. Millions of fans have won billions of dollars on Underdog. Will you be next? Sign up now to get a free pick for your first cash entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Download the Underdog app or visit UnderdogFantasy.com to get started today.
Is there more or less pressure on the Miami Dolphins? I mean, like their season, people have counted them out multiple times. What do you tell a team where you have to win every game to get in the playoffs? And is there more or less pressure on the Dolphins right now?
Typically, you have a one-game mentality. It's the game at hand is the most important thing. But I think now you show the team that, hey, this is where we are. We need to win out. We need the Chargers or the Broncos to lose a game or something like that. We got to catch them. And the only way we can do that is win this game in front of us. If next week's game is going to matter, we got to win this one first. If the week after that one's going to matter, we got to win both of them. So I think the players, the coaches, they understand the importance. And I'm telling you again, this is important for the Texans. They got to play Baltimore and Kansas City coming up as well. So they don't want to lose this game and it's okay, we'll beat Baltimore. Probably not going to beat Baltimore. Okay, we'll beat probably not. Now all of a sudden you're tied with Indianapolis going into the last week, and who knows what can happen. So this is a huge game for both teams, in my opinion.
Who has more pressure then, Texans or Dolphins?
I think it's equal, to be honest with you. I think obviously if Miami loses, they're done. If Houston loses, they're in a spiral, and it's going to be a panic. But there is more pressure on Miami because Miami's basically one and done. Even if Houston loses this game, they still have a chance to beat Tennessee the last game, maybe sneak up and beat Baltimore, Kansas City, and they'll be fine. But definitely Miami they got to win to get in type mentality.
Who wins it?
I'm going to take Houston. I think Houston's going to win it. They're going to figure out a way to get some stops, and CJ's going to get back on track.
I'm going to do the same question to you, AQ. Who has more pressure to win this game? And you already mentioned who you think wins it, but reemphasize that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I kind of agree with Jay. It's equal a little bit, but I do think there is more pressure on the Dolphins because Houston can't afford to slip up because at the end of the day, they got Anthony Richardson staring down their neck, and he's a toss-up whether or not he shows up. He's either really good or really bad. It's one of the two, right? So you're going to bank on the fact that he's going to be really bad, one of those, and slip up, and then you still feel really good with a comfort cushion, if you're the Houston Texans. But I think, yeah, I mean, I like this Dolphins team. I really do. And I didn't even mention it in the first game. One of you guys brought it up, but Jonnu Smith has been unbelievable. I mean, he's been the key to this thing. Like you sit there and you look at Tyreek and you sit there and look at Waddle and it's like, why are these guys not showing up more? Well, because Jonnu Smith's going for 100 plus every game at this point, right? He's become the kind of the go-to guy over the last couple of weeks. He's the guy he goes to in overtime to get the game winner, right? Like I think he only had he might have had 0 catches or 1 catch going into overtime. And then he has 3 for 70 or 60 in the game winners. Yeah, for me, I like this Dolphins team. I like where they're going. They got to continue to win. And like Jay said, hey, as James Franklin says from Penn State, it's 1-0 mentality, boys.
All right, Cole, take that 1-0 mentality to your prediction. Who has more pressure and who wins it?
Yeah, I think Miami definitely has more pressure. I mean, listen, the Texans they've been up and down. And I think they feel confident they can get their offense rolling a little bit. That's to be determined, to be seen, right? But I think Miami, in a situation where you got to win every game, there's obviously more pressure on them, and that's why I think Miami will figure out this game. Tua is playing very good. You look at his stats over the last 4 weeks; he's balling. I think they just have too much skill on the outside, and Tua does a nice job. We talk about CJ getting hit a bunch. Tua does a nice job of getting the ball out of his hands. He'll throw check down swings, flats, all that bubbles all day long just to not take hits. I think that the Dolphins look at this as a game that after that overtime win last week, there's a little bit of momentum, and they're kind of rallying the guys in the locker room, and I feel like they got some good momentum right here, and this will be a big win for them.
You know what? I'm going to go with you here, Jay. I think the Texans get this one. I think the Miami Dolphins have a ton of talent, but they've just proven time in and time out like Miami Dolphins on offense. Yeah, I think they do. The one key factor I will say is Azeez Al-Shaair, a guy like Jonnu Smith who can get after it. Like that's a big loss for the Houston Texans. I do like their D-line. I think the Texans find a way to win this one. Joe Mixon's going to have a game. CJ Stroud is going to look back to form. Texans are going to win it. Dolphins are going to be done with.
Good one to watch, man. Like this one.